What's up, guys? Welcome to Juice Podcast. My name is Salman Ali, at Salman Ali NBA on Twitter. Here joined by Dan Favale, at Dan Favale on Twitter and Blue Sky. You're on Blue Sky, right?
I am on Blue Sky.
Okay. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's been quite a bit of time since we last podcasted. I'm kind of having to rework the podcasting muscles. My rundown right now is a mess. My audio setup right now is still a work in progress. But we are here. The microphone's working now, or at least a microphone's working now. The microphone is not working. But the webcam's up, and we're ready to go. So I brought you on because I want to talk about the Western Conference and where the Rockets stand in it. But let's first react to some news before we get into the meat of that subject. So 2 news items that came out since the last time we recorded. So first, as predicted on this podcast, Cam Whitmore has been traded, and he's been traded to the Washington Wizards for 2 second-round picks. Second piece of news items we have is the full details of the Dorian-Finney Smith contract. It's 4 years, $52.7 million, and the last 2 years are non-guaranteed. Now, let me explain why I said both of them back-to-back, because I kind of think that they're related. It's very clear one of 2 things happened. Either the Dorian-Finney Smith signing prompted the trade of Cam Whitmore because there wasn't room for him anymore, or the pending Cam Whitmore trade prompted the Dorian-Finney Smith signing. To be honest, it really doesn't matter what it was, because the bottom line is it's hard for me to view the Cam Whitmore trade or the DFS signing in a vacuum. It's better to view it as one big transaction. The Rockets traded Cam Whitmore for 2 second-round picks in Dorian-Finney Smith. I don't love that trade, but I can understand how the Rockets got there. It's very clear that Whitmore wanted a more consistent role in the team, and Houston was not prepared to give it to him for one reason or another. What makes me feel a lot better about it is the last 2 years of Finney Smith's deal being non-guaranteed. In a second apron environment, that contract could end up being extremely valuable in trade discussions with other teams. So if Houston's thinking is Cam is never going to realize his star upside while he's buried on the bench here, and this Dorian-Finney Smith contract is too tantalizing to pass up on, I can live with it. Even if that means Whitmore scoring like an efficient 22 points per game on the Wizards next year, which I think is a distinct possibility, that'll certainly make me feel sad, but I can live with it. I can live with it. I know I said a lot there, Dan. What was your reaction to the contract and the Whitmore trade?
So I'm a big Cam Whitmore guy. I know
Same.
there's some issues there where if he gets the ball, he's just going to shoot it or he's going to try and score it. But with his size, I know he can be frustrating on defense. I think there's a lot there. But when you're kind of buried on this depth chart in Houston, his trade value probably wasn't going to go up. And it's his role decreased last year, and they're only trying to get better after the Kevin Durant trade. And so I think kind of just moving him, I think what you did is, okay, you got seconds for him, whatever, but you do someone like this a solid, and agents are going to remember that. Players are going to remember that. It's sort of like what the Knicks did with Obi Toppin and the Pacers. They could look at him blossoming in Indiana, and it's kind of a bummer he didn't get more run there, but he was playing behind Julius Randle. So I understand the return's underwhelming relative to the type of prospect I think Whitmore is, but you're built to navigate his absence. I did interpret it, everything you laid out about Dorian-Finney Smith, what came first, whatever, the playing time, I interpret it the same way. The other thing I took this as, and this says more about their offseason in some, is I do think this is either a vote of confidence or just sort of a nod to, like Reed Sheppard is going to get a shot this year. And so I know him and Cam Whitmore play different positions, they're different players, but there was no room for both of those guys in the rotation either. And so I think that was also not a huge element of it. I'm not trying to say, but I think that was part of the process as well.
Yeah, and you said an interesting phrase there that I did want to touch on. You said that he was kind of buried in the depth chart here. That was also by choice, right? I don't want to get Houston off of that, right? Like Houston sought more depth, right? Like Houston went out and chased Dorian-Finney Smith. They could have also just not used their mid-level exception, right? But they were very clearly in we only have this year to use a mid-level exception, and we view using that as a better decision than keeping Whitmore, right? We'd rather use it on Dorian-Finney Smith and let Whitmore go to another team. I do also think long-term financially, this is probably the prudent thing to do. You can't afford to pay all these young guys, right? If they're all young star prospects, then they're going to cost young star prospect money. Right now, they're getting away with some of the negotiations. Right, they got both Alperen Sengun and Jabari Smith Jr. on favorable deals. Right. And I think they're probably going to get Tari Eason on a favorable deal if he signs an extension this summer. But that doesn't mean that trend's going to continue. You may run into a wall here with one of either Amen, Reed, or Cam, right? And if you feel like you can't afford you just couldn't afford all 6 of these guys, right? So I understand them choosing to double down on some assets, on some prospects. And now I wonder if they chose the correct mix to double down on. Listen, I'm a fan of Alperen Sengun. I'm a fan of Amen Thompson. I had Cam Whitmore as the 3rd best prospect on this team, straight up, last year. I thought he was better than Jalen Green. I thought he was a better prospect than Jabari Smith Jr. I thought he was a better prospect than Tari Eason. That's how high I am on Cam. The Rockets may not view it that way. But it is what it is. He's gone. The return's underwhelming, but I think he probably wasn't. His value was more likely to go down than up as we got into the season, because he was not going to have playing time and everybody knew they could just squeeze Houston. So I understand why they did it. We're just going to have to see if it ends up being the right call. Again, the non-guaranteed years does take the sting off a little bit, because I really like that asset. Long-term, Dorian-Finney Smith, because I do think let's just say Houston in 2 years decides to trade for a star talent, right? Usually teams trading star talents are they don't want to pay a huge bill the following season, right? Especially if they're like a team that's in the first apron or second apron, they want to get out of that, right? So having that as a non-guaranteed contract, combined with all the other contracts they picked up this summer, right? The Clint Capella contract, the Jabari Smith extension. I like that mix as something you can curate a deal for other teams if you would decide to go shopping again. I think the Rockets are probably going to stand pat for at least this year and see what this team can do, but it is something to think about.
Yeah, it's like you said, we'll see whether or not it's the right answer. I do look at this and I have trouble seeing them regretting this decision in any way, just based off the structure of the team and the timeline that, not even that they're committed to, but that they've been kind of foisted into because of how good they got so quickly. And so I think when you look at you could say they didn't get enough for Cam Whitmore. They also got Kevin Durant for pretty much a song. Like that Jalen Green deal was not viewed favorably around the league. I know Rockets fans have had strong takes about Jalen Green, but I can confirm that contract was not viewed even kind of favorably around the league. And so you just you have to weigh it all in some. And it's like the opportunity cost of getting Dorian-Finney Smith on an ultra team friendly contract while also kind of kneecapping one of your quote unquote rivals. Like they made 2 teams in the Western Conference weaker with the Kevin Durant trade and by getting Dorian-Finney Smith. And Whitmore's now out of the conference if he does pop, at least. So I think they did a bunch of great work. And the Dorian-Finney Smith deal, which I didn't I didn't comment on when you threw it to me, my God, he really must have wanted to leave the Lakers, because like that's a deal they easily could have beaten. I know he wanted to get back to Texas, but there's a chance. I mean, maybe he closes for this team, but I think he had a better chance of playing a larger role, being a member of the main crunch time units with the Lakers. And so whatever they're doing, whether it's planning for the future, if he just wanted out, that's a really good piece of business by the Rockets. It's flexible. Like you said, they have to pay these other guys. And now you kind of like, if you want, like Fred VanVleet and maybe even Kevin Durant, and then now Dorian-Finney Smith, like those guys start to come off the books as all these other dudes start getting expensive. And so if it turns out all of these young guys, Sengun, Jabari Smith Jr., Eason, Sheppard, Amen, are all just like, if that's the future of their team, I'd bet against it. But again, if that's the future of their team, all those guys, you've kind of set yourself up to like, okay, we kind of have 3-4 years maybe where like we don't have to worry about making a truly tough call that knifes into that young group.
Yeah. I think by now the listeners are aware of the fact that the Rockets are receiving kind of nearly unanimous approval for their offseason from a national perspective. Everyone seems to be in agreement that A, Kevin Durant solves a lot of offensive problems for them. B, the Rockets will be a much better team next year. And C, the franchise has shifted from rebuilding to title contention mode and are, a threat in the Western Conference. I guess my natural follow-up question is how much of a threat and which team should they be worried about? I guess we'll start with this question because it's the question I've been asked when I've gone on other shows. Dan, what did you think of their offseason as a whole? I know you talked about it a little bit, but does this team now have a legitimate chance at making the NBA Finals?
Yeah, I think they had a really good offseason when you look at trying to juggle the present and the future together. I know they gave up, but like the number 10 pick, there was no way. Like you couldn't find minutes for Cam Whitmore or Reed Sheppard last season. You're not finding minutes for the number 10 pick. And so you look at Kevin Durant's age, he's in the final year of his contract. You have to extend him. I think they had a really good offseason because they now have real championship equity. And I think there are still holes on offense that people nationally, at least, probably aren't talking enough about when it comes to Kevin Durant and how one has never really been like a tried and true, let me elevate the play, the shots of everyone around me guy. But he's even less of that player now. Like he has struggled more, it seems like, against defenses that pressure him. He's also a wild card when it comes to, well, will he do stuff away from the ball, or is he going to kind of sulk and gravitate towards the corner? So there are questions, but they also just might have the answers on the roster when you look at specifically what Reed Sheppard is capable of doing. Amen Thompson's not yet growing. So I think that you can, if anyone thinks they're better than the Thunder right now, I don't know what the argument there is, but you can make a legitimate case that they are the second best team in the Western Conference right now. Whether or not we put them there as we go through this exercise remains to be seen, but that's the case they have. And I know they were there last year. No one was picking them to win their matchup against the Warriors, basically. Yeah. Now you're in a position to where they're going to enter a first-round playoff series, and it'll be I'll ask what shockingly has gone wrong if they are not favorites to win that playoff series.
Yeah. So here's my initial thoughts. In a vacuum, this roster strikes me as a legitimate title contender, right? But obviously, this stuff doesn't happen in a vacuum. You have to look at the rest of the Western Conference, and this is where my head's at. One, I think we can all agree, other than OKC, I think the top of the Western Conference had kind of a down season last year, right? Like Denver went from a 57 team to a 50-win team. And I know a lot of people are pointing to the roster thinning out, but I think Aaron Gordon missed like 30 games due to injury, and like we kind of underrated how big of a deal that was. Minnesota, I think made a bad trade, and this is my opinion, by going from Randall to Towns. By going from Towns to Randall. I think Randall is a bit of a clunkier fit, and Towns is just an overall better player, right? Like a lot better as a basketball player. They went from 56 to 49 wins, right? I know they made the Western Conference. I don't believe in this team. I'm sorry. I just don't believe in the Timberwolves. I will not believe in the Timberwolves until they actually make an NBA final. It's not what they're doing in the playoffs. It's their roster. I just don't believe in their roster. That's just me. Obviously, the Lakers drastically remade their roster by swapping out Davis for Luka. They went from 47 to 50 wins. And obviously Golden State also got better. They went from 46 to 48 wins, but really they had like a 60-win pace post All-Star break after they got Jimmy Butler, right? The Clippers had a kind of a lateral year win total-wise, but they really hit their stride when Kawhi came back. So if you're really asking me to rank these teams today, you know what? I'll hold off on that. How would you rank these teams today?
All of those teams, or like you want my top 3, top 4?
Give me who you think are the contenders and who you think are not.
Man, so I think, and this is pretty much in order, at least the top 3. So I would have the Thunder, then the Nuggets, and then I have the Rockets just below them. And I think the thing that's intriguing about the Rockets, you can't say the same about the Nuggets. Maybe you could say the same about the Thunder, but you can't say that about the Clippers, the Lakers, like the Wolves, all these other teams. They're not, like, if you remove any one player from any other contender, that contender's probably screwed for the most part. If you do that to the Rockets, like, if Kevin Durant I'm not putting it out there, but if Kevin Durant has an injury, the Rockets still might just be a top 4 team in the West. Like, they still have like, you kind of look, right, who becomes your leading scorer at that point, but maybe Reed Sheppard's been elevated. So that's what's like, I really gave more consideration to the Rockets as number 2 than I think a lot of people will. I think it's going to be pretty consensus Thunder and then Denver. But I have Houston right there. I'd probably have Houston and Denver in the same tier. So OKC in a tier all their own, then Houston and Denver in a second tier. After that, I'm not sold on anyone. The Lakers are not in my third tier. I will tell you that right now, especially after this offseason. I think I would have populating that third tier. I would go with the Clippers, I didn't love the Norman Powell trade. If they get Bradley Beal after we record this, then it makes a little bit more sense to me, and their team becomes a lot more intriguing. Maybe could be in the Nuggets Rockets tier, but I would have the Clippers, the Timberwolves, and the Warriors. And I think that that's really it for the third tier. And then after that, in the next tier, like, are the Lakers even in that? Like the Mavericks with the Kyrie injury, but they got Cooper Flag and Anthony Davis. Like they could be in there. I don't know what the Kings are doing. I think the Grizzlies will find a way to win regular season games if they're healthy, but I kind of view them as a non-threat. And so I think that's the extent of the contenders then, is like those first three tiers. I'm probably a little bit higher on Minnesota than you, but like Minnesota, the Clippers, the Warriors in that bottom tier of contention, followed by the Nuggets and the Rockets in their own tier, and then OKC in that top tier all their own.
I'm going to say something controversial. I think both the Nuggets and the Rockets are in the same tier as the Thunder in terms of legitimate threat to win it all. I think there's a few teams that would count as dark horses underneath that, which would probably be Golden State, LA, and Minnesota. And I would say like probably both LA teams I would say are dark horses there. I know that the Lakers have a lot of drama coming out right now, but as long as Luka's on that team and LeBron's on that team, I still think they're a dark horse. Right, I have a hard time not saying that. I think the Clippers, I actually do like what they did, especially if they get Bradley Beal, right? Like I think they, all of last season struggled to fill minutes at power forward there. They had to play Kawhi there. They didn't want to play Kawhi there, right? I think OKC, Houston, and Denver all flirt with like 60 wins, right? I think they ultimately settle in at like 58 to 62 wins each. And I think that second tier will stay closer to the low to mid 50 wins territory. So 50 to 54 wins each. And I think a lot of people are going to hear that and say, like, well, you're not putting the Thunder in a tier by themselves. They just won the title. They have the reigning MVP. They won 68 games. There's a couple things going on here. One, we have to stop doing this thing where a new team wins the title and we all talk about them like they're going to dominate the league for the next 5 years, right? Some of that's going on here. Right, like I don't think that's all that's going on. Right, we did it with the Bucks, though. We did it with the Nuggets, and some of that's going on with the Thunder. I think we're all conditioned to do that because we just came out of this Warriors era. But dynasties are so rare, and it's kind of smarter. It's a smarter bet to not label a team a dynasty until they've at least made the finals twice, right, in a row. And they haven't even made the conference finals twice in a row. Right? Can we just like pause a little bit? Right? Like, I'm seeing all the reactions to Chet Holmgren signing his extension on Twitter. And it's like, oh, this team is going to, like, dominate the NBA for the next 7 years. And it's like, first of all, there's a lot of financial stuff that they're going to have to contend with. Second of all, they have to contend with their own conference. Listen, I think it's very possible that this Thunder team is a dynasty. The roster is well constructed, and they have a ton of good assets and young players. But, like, let's just wait a little bit. The second thing that's going on here, I think I'm a little more skeptical of OKC than the general public. And I look at their stats as a team. I look at their roster, and I feel like an idiot for feeling that way, right? But my thing is, that first Warriors season, they played 0 Game 7s. That second Warriors season, if not for Steph spraining his MCL and Draymond kicking people in the nuts, they don't play any Game 7s. They probably roll to the title again that second year, right? This Thunder team, in their first year together, played 2 Game 7s, right? And that second Game 7 was against a team that I don't think should have been on their level. I'm sorry. I know the Pacers are getting a lot of love right now. I don't believe in them either, at the same level as the Timberwolves, right? Even with the healthy Tyrese, I just don't believe that they're that same level of team. I thought that the Thunder should have won that series in 6 games or less, right? Just based off how good they were as a team all year, they should have smoked them, or at least gotten closer to smoking them than they did. And so I look at that, and I'm also a little more confident in, I think, Houston and Denver, particularly. And I guess we can talk about that in a second. But I guess you can kind of react to what I just said there about the Thunder. Am I crazy for having that kind of doubt? Like, I know Shea is awesome. I know Chet's awesome. I know J-Dub's awesome. Hardenstein, like Al Caruso. They got a bunch of depth along with this core. But I look at them and I'm like, they're not a Warriors level threat to me. And people are talking about them like they're a Warriors level threat. I don't understand it.
I don't think you're wrong for having doubts. The offense can get a bit clunky, as we saw, but I think a couple things are probably being discounted there. Is that if it's still clunky, they have the assets to go out and make whatever trade that they want in the middle of the season to address that. Jalen Williams also was basically playing on one wrist for most of that finals performance.
You're right. Yeah.
And I think also the Nuggets, like that series against the Nuggets, it really to me said more about the state of the Nuggets than it did the Thunder. Like they beat a tough team while playing maybe not at their best. And you got to look at guys like Chet Holmgren, J-Dub. They're going to continue to get better. It's like the version of the Thunder you watch this year, you're probably going to see maybe they don't win as many games. Perhaps they don't go for it as hard in the regular season. But like that version of the Thunder is only going to get better.
But so are these other teams, though, right? Like you say that, and I'm like, the Western Conference. Go ahead. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
You're just kind of like, to me, I guess, dismissing like the Rockets had even greater concerns on the offensive end. And yeah, they have Kevin Durant, but we're supposed to just pencil them in as the same level of the Thunder, even though they weren't even close to that next year.
And I'm going to make my case. Number one, Alperen Sengun is just much better than people are making him out to be. Like people are talking about this. Like I know Amen Thompson is the hot player right now, right? And listen, I said before the season that this guy is underrated and will probably flirt with an all defensive team, right? I think I said that on your show. And I'm as high on him as anybody. But Alperen Sengun last season made his first All-Star season and had a down year in efficiency and was recovering from a grade 3 lower leg injury. And we just kind of like didn't talk about it. Fred VanVleet had a down year as well. Now he has down year. So I don't want to say that he's going to have a bounce back year because he just has like a up and down efficiency throughout the course of his career, right? He's just kind of like that as a player. But you look at the rest of this core, they're still under 24, right? And you can say the same thing about Oklahoma City. But Kevin Durant's also Kevin Durant. Like, I don't know, like, am I crazy to think that this Rockets team is probably, like, going to be a 58-62 win team? And I think kind of when you look at the rest of the Western Conference, I think Oklahoma City is going to struggle a little bit more this year than they did last year. Not to say that they're going to struggle. I just think they're not going to be a 68-win team again. I think they're going to be like a 64-win team or a 62-win team or maybe even a 58-win team.
I think you're not being unreasonable to say the Rockets are going to be that good, but I do think you're like conflating a little bit of progress being linear here to where the Thunder could win 56 games next year and still just be a better team because if they're not going for it as hard in the regular season. And like for all I guess I'm having trouble saying because you're laying out a bunch of things for the Rockets that just apply to the Thunder as well. And so it seems like you're assigning more meaning to the improvement that the Rockets are going to get from within.
The Thunder also didn't add Kevin Durant. That's why, like, I think
they didn't add an age 37-year-old player who's had some injuries in the past and doesn't necessarily solve their biggest offensive issue, which is like being able to.
What's their biggest offensive issue?
Creating for others in the half court. Like Kevin Durant's not going to solve that. He's not going to solve it to the extent that they need it.
They were 12th in offense last year.
How'd that work out for them in the playoffs?
Well, I mean, let me finish my thought here. So they were 12th in offense last year. Obviously, in the playoffs, they were not at the level, but their biggest issue is without a doubt solved by Kevin Durant. Like, I don't think their distribution was their issue. I think they have a generational passing center, and I think they have a burgeoning star who also has some passing chops, but had Jalen Green taking step back jumpers, taking the ball away from him. In Amen Thompson. And I would like to see another year of development with those two alongside an actual number one scoring option in Kevin Durant. Like Jalen Green was like 57% true shooting. Kevin Durant's like a historically like 62% true shooting, like for his career. Like it's just a different. Yeah, he's 37. Has he dropped off? Like I don't know. I haven't seen it.
I would argue, look, if you're trying to get me to say that Kevin Durant's not good, that's not what I'm saying. There has been a drop-off there. When you're viewing it through the lens of, is this guy a number one option? Like, there is a drop-off there. There's not going to be as much rim pressure. We've seen, like, yeah, the workload he shouldered in Phoenix was absurd at points. You do have to wonder where I don't think he doesn't have these chronic issues, even, like, post-Achilles injury, but there always does seem to be things that crop up. He has a lot of like he's going into his age 37 season. We've seen the percentage of like his threes that now go assisted. They've just been a lot higher over the past few years. And so you have to wonder what type of on-ball workload can you get from him if he needs to be your number one option. And so I think a lot of he's a he's an all-NBA player if he's going to play in the 65-game threshold. I'm not denying that. But I don't think that I look at him as someone who guarantees you a top-tier offense. Phoenix was not a top-tier offense last year. They also lost the minutes that Kevin Durant played like as a solo star. So it's just the Rockets are a better team. They're better built to, like, I would think, lighten Kevin Durant's like overall minutes load. His minutes were insane these past 2 years. Like, he was 2,800 in 75 games in 24. And then last year he was probably on pace to beat that before he got injured, 62 after 62 appearances. So having watched a lot of Kevin Durant in Phoenix, I don't view him as someone who's going to be like this tried and true, give him the ball, number one option for an entire season anymore. I think that that's like your bailout weapon, and I think that the Rockets do have a ton of offensive depth. You were in front of Alperen Sengun. I give you credit for that. I think Alperen Sengun is fantastic. But there's still, to me, and maybe I'll be wrong, going to be limitations on their half-court offense. And yeah, there might be limitations on OKC's half-court offense as well. But I don't think people are getting, like, being too hyperbolic by thinking the Thunder belong in their own tier in the Western Conference after what we just watched them do. And like, they're also like, they have Nikola Topic that's going to be worked into the fold this year. Like, another really, that might cost them games in the regular season, but it increases their depth and their offensive optionality even more. So I think Kevin Durant makes the Rockets a much better team, but I think it feels just a little bit reductive to say like they immediately belong in the Thunder's tier after what we just watched from the Thunder, and knowing that there's still just as much as there's internal room for the Rockets to grow, there's just as much internal runway for Oklahoma City to continue to get better.
Well, again, like, I'm not saying that they don't have internal room for improvement. I'm saying Houston's also having external room for improvement, right? And like, I think you're underselling KD a little bit here. I know you're not saying he's bad. I know you're not saying that, but you are saying there's a big drop off, and I'm saying, where did it happen? Because you're saying that he had more assisted 3-pointers last year, right? You mentioned that stat. That Suns roster was a mess, and I just have a hard time viewing what he did in that Suns offense without a notable drop-off in his scoring efficiency as a projection on what he is as a player. I think he has a better fitting roster here in Houston, right? Like, the players here arguably are not going to, veer into his territory in the same way that there was a lot of redundancy on that Suns roster, like too much, right? They don't have that here in Houston. He is there to solve problems, right? He is there to fill a role that wasn't there, right? And I think you look at what they were last year offensively, they were bad, but they were bad for a playoff team. They weren't bad. And I think can they get to top 7? Yeah. I think that's realistic, if not like likely. I think they're going to be a top 7 offense. I don't know if you look at Oklahoma City, it's not just that I think that the Rockets got better. It's that the Western Conference got better, and that Oklahoma City didn't really have any equal like last year to contend with, right? Like, you look at the Denver Nuggets, they're a lot deeper, right? They're a lot better. Are they not a lot deeper? They added a ton of players compared to where they were last year.
They have assuming Jonas Valanciunas plays, they're definitely deeper at backup center.
Right.
I mean, just having watched
Tim Hardaway Jr., they added Cam Johnson. I know he's taking Michael Porter Jr.'s
spot, but like Bruce Brown hasn't been the same player since he left Denver. He's
on a minimum,
Jr.
though, right?
I'm not saying, but to say that they got a lot deeper because they added I think
they added 3 guys.
Yeah, but here's what we do, and we did this with the Suns too, is we over-romanticize the addition of these minimum contract guys. Like, if you're thinking that, I just said the Nuggets are the second best team in the West, so I'm not saying they didn't get better, but this is more in service of just like, you think I'm underrating the Rockets or the Nuggets or the rest of the West. I just think you're reducing the Thunder down to, I don't even understand what your problem is with them, to be honest, based off everything that you've said.
Well, I mean, it's not more of a problem. It's more of a surrounding, right? Like, they're not playing in that same environment they were last year. The context of their conference is completely different, I think.
I don't know how it's completely different. I think it's the Houston was there last year, they got better. Denver was there last year, they got better. But like, the Lakers aren't better.
Am I just overrating Kevin Durant? I feel like I am.
Here's the thing: it's Kevin Durant to me. and I think it's going to make Rockets fans hate me already, so this is fine. Even though I think Reed Sheppard's going to be a star, and that would be like a more compelling argument is for you to like tell me that Reed Sheppard's going to enter.
He's playing backup point guard. I just don't know if there's going to be a role for him to be a star.
If you're looking in terms of the regular season, I think you could tell me that the Rockets are going to be like a top 3 offense, and I would just sure. When you look at the context of the playoffs, go back and look at like some of KD's most recent playoff runs. Like the juice that you're squeezing out of him just isn't the same. And I don't like saying that because I still think he's a top 15 player in the league. But if you're relying on him to be the focal point of your offense in the playoffs, I think there are more limits than a lot of people are considering. And I also think this doesn't get talked about enough. He is one of the most scalable superstars in the NBA that we have ever seen. You could plug him anywhere and he's just going to work. The issues that start to arise over time, over the course of a season, is he very clearly still wants the ball in his hands a bunch. And when it's not, some issues can arise from that. Now, maybe he's entered a new mindset because he pushed to get to Houston. He seems to have all the respect in the world for Ime Udoka, which you can't undersell that. But like, you also shouldn't be getting away from putting the ball in Amen Thompson's or Alperen Sengun's hands specifically just to run more Kevin Durant ball or whatever. And so if you talk to people in Phoenix, if you talk to people in Golden State, you talk to people even with the Nets, like there's still some of him as plug and play as he seems, he still very much wants to play a certain way. And I don't think playing that way is going to maximize, like at this stage of his career, it's certainly not going to maximize this team when I think you look at how good Sengun and Amen Thompson are already. And so I still just have questions. I think that they got better. I think you could sit here and tell me they are the second best team in the West, and I won't give you a bunch of pushback. I just think that the Thunder are still going to be head and shoulders. Like, that team was just, you could say the West was weaker. They were first in defense by a mile. And I don't know how much better Houston's defense is going to get from last season. Kevin Durant been pretty good defensively, especially doing big man stuff. And you're leaning in, like, you look at the size on that front line now with having Clint Capella and Steven Adams too. They were second in offensive efficiency too. So even we're sitting here quibbling over their biggest struggles, they started to get, the other thing that's not talked about enough with the Thunder is Hartenstein, Holmgren, all missed a ton of time. Their big man rotation was decimated at one point. People pointed to the numbers without Shea as like evidence of failure. And on some level, at points there were. When you started playing J-Dub with either Chet or Hartenstein as they got healthy, like the offense looked a lot better in the regular season. And so am I going to think the Thunder are going to flirt with 70 victories again? I probably won't. I think there's a level of fatigue in there that comes with deep playoff runs. Do I think that they're going to have the best record in the West in the regular season? Yeah, I absolutely do. But I think that the offense is going to be a lot more playoff proof, just like the Rockets' offense is going to be a lot more playoff proof. I just don't think that they got better enough to sit here and say they're on Oklahoma City's level. And that's not me saying Oklahoma City is going to be a dynasty, but also
you're describing untouchable though. That's what you're describing.
No, I'm not. I said there's a scenario in which Houston comes out of the Western Conference.
But you're saying they're head and shoulders above these other teams. And I'm just like, I can understand why someone might think they're better. Head and shoulders is a pretty strong. I mean, that's saying there's like. So
it's the same thing though as you saying that you can't trust the Timberwolves even though they just went to consecutive conference finals.
Well, that's me not believing in the roster. I believe in Oklahoma City's roster, and I also believe in Houston's roster. I don't believe in the Thunder's roster. I mean, not the Thunder's roster, the Timberwolves roster, and it has more to do with. I mean, to be honest, I'm not an Anthony Edwards guy, right? I just don't think he's the number one guy on a championship team. I know everybody loves Anthony Edwards. The league right now, like, loves Anthony Edwards. I am not at that same level with everybody. Right. In fact, I think there is a good case to be made that he's probably not a top 10 player in the NBA.
He's not.
Right?
Honestly, we're on the same page with the Timberwolves. I'm just using it as an example of saying you're sitting there saying you don't trust that a team is good enough to be a title contender despite making consecutive conference finals. I'm trying to say, like, I think the Thunder are noticeably better than everybody in the Western Conference, to where that if you picked, like, I wouldn't pick them to lose a playoff series against any team in the West right now. And I would be actually surprised if they not floored. Like, I think that there's a lot of good teams in the West, and we saw the Nuggets, a worse version of the Nuggets than we see now, at least on paper, push them to 7 games. So, like, yes, there are clear threats in the West, but, like, the Thunder, knowing what was going on with J-Dub's injury or how poorly Chet played on offense a lot, throughout the playoffs, and they were still able to come out of what was, I think you're underselling how good the top of the West was. Like, I think that's kind of not giving enough credit to they didn't face Houston in the playoffs. But like, I think I'm probably higher on the Timberwolves than you, even if I don't fancy them, a second tier title contender. I look at the West, and I don't think enough has been done to say, if you want me to say that the Thunder aren't noticeably better than anyone else, I need to be sold on which team is going to be like a favorite against them. Which team are you picking to beat the Thunder in a playoff series right now?
I'm not saying they can't be the best team, but that margin of difference between the best team and the second best team, right? Like I'm putting them in the same tier, and I don't think that's controversial. But I think most people consider that to be controversial, including you.
I don't, honestly, when you frame it like that, it's fair to say that the margin between the Thunder and the rest of the West has shrunk, in part mostly because of Denver and Houston at the moment. I don't think that's controversial at all. I don't even necessarily think it's controversial to put them in the same tier. I think we started this entire discussion as you said it was controversial, and then you thought it was controversial that I have the Thunder in their own tier, which is just like, maybe we're splitting hairs at that level, but I don't I think the West is the top of the West. I would say it's better. I mean, I don't know if the Clippers are better if they get Bradley Beal, but the Kawhi of it all, James Harden getting older, I just don't view there as being, there are viable threats to the Thunder. I don't think there's one that's making me nervous about putting the Thunder in their own tier. When you look at everybody's coming back and players are still going to improve. They had the best defense in the league last year by a mile. Maybe it won't be as generational as it was, but just like the margin, maybe the margin between them and everyone else has shrunk. But to me, that margin for error in the first place was just a lot larger than it seems like you believe, which I think at that point, it's just a difference of opinion. I don't think it's controversial or whatever. I just think it's a disagreement, which is reasonable to have.
Well, I mean, to be clear, like, I think last year that margin was what you're describing, right? Like, I think they were head and shoulders better than every team in the NBA, frankly. Right, even the Cavaliers, that people talked about them being on their level, I was just like, no, I don't think that's the case, right? Now, this year is kind of what I guess I should be the one making more of my case, right? I'm saying that the rest of the Western Conference is that much better. I'm not saying that the Thunder were not that much better last year. I'm saying everyone else has caught up a little bit. Right, I'm not saying they've caught up to the point where you should be favoring you should be favoring anybody against in a series against the Thunder, but I don't think they're rolling the Nuggets, right? I think the Nuggets will probably take them to 7 games again, right? And I think the margin of victory on the wins that the Thunder collect in that series is going to be smaller.
Which would be fair, but I guess where we would differentiate the most is I don't look at, you said the rest of the West just got better, and I just feel like we're kind of at a point where we've agreed on the Nuggets and the Rockets got, measurably better, but who else?
Yeah, no, you're right. That's correct. I guess the Clippers. The Clippers, I think did get better, especially if the Clippers got better if they're getting Bradley Beal.
Right.
If they're getting Bradley Beal, they got better. I don't know anybody else. That's fair. That's a fair take. I'm basically talking about the Thunder and the Rockets. And it feels weird to be this high on the Rockets, but I really do think they're going to be freaking awesome next year, man. I really do. Like, look at that roster. I look at that roster like twice a day. And I'm like, where's the hole? Like, what are they lacking? I guess the hole is injury, right? I guess the hole is can Kevin Durant hold up over an 82-game season, which I agree, that is something to worry about, but they can manage him better than the Suns can, right? Like they can have him rest games, right? They have that luxury because they have such a deep roster, and I don't know, like I think I really just believe in these young stars on Houston. Like I really do. I think Sengun and Thompson particularly are like tier 1 level young stars, right? Like in terms of young talents in the NBA. For their age, I don't know if there's a prospect I like better in their age group, right? Like I think they're that good, right? I'm not saying like there's nobody on their level, but I'm not sure if there's someone I like much appreciably better in that age group, right? The 22-year-old young star. I just think they're ready to make leaps into stars on title teams level, right? Like I think they're ready to make that leap. And Oklahoma City has a big 3, right? I think Houston has their own, and it's just like I don't know if we're ready to have that conversation. It really does feel like people, when they talk about the Rockets, like I know you don't do it, but I feel like when I hear other people talk about the Rockets, Sengun's such an afterthought, man. Like even now, in the heap of praise that they're getting, Thompson gets named, Van Vleet gets named, Jabari gets named because he just signed this extension, and like sometimes he does his name won't get mentioned in the conversation about the team. It's like, guys, he might be the second best player on the roster. He might be the best player on the roster if Kevin Durant takes a step back.
Yeah, who is I guess people are considering Amen Thompson the second best player on the roster. Is that?
I mean, listen, that could be the case.
Well, I'm just asking. I guess I just had Sengun penciled in as the second best player on the.
People consider Amen Thompson probably. I think it's a recency bias thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if Amen Thompson just gets more dynamic offensively, I could see it. I guess I kind of had Sengun penciled in as the Rockets' best player. Really, it's just like because Kevin Durant has the name and the scoring cachet, but my concern with the Rockets is their first shot offense, their creation. Kevin Durant fixes a lot of the first shot offense because a Kevin Durant shot is just more efficient than most other shots in basketball.
It's
but
the
if you're
creation.
looking, it's someone who's going to drive everything for others. Honestly, to me, I think Reed Sheppard can be this player. But my point being
You're
is
so high on. Let's talk about this. Like you mentioned him a couple of times.
My whole thing is though, Sengun is the guy right now, the only one capable to me of driving offense for everyone else at a high, consistent level. So I guess I was disconnected with how low. I started off low on Sengun. This is years ago. But I guess I've become to the point where I just have him penciled in as like, oh, no, that's the offensive engine for them. And from what you're saying, I'm just disconnected from reality a little bit because it doesn't seem like people think that.
People, I know. I think it's a national thing. And it's strange because you're a national figure and you don't talk about him that way, right? But
You might have harassed me into not though too.
maybe. Like, listen, maybe I need to piss some other people off because I really do believe in Amen Thompson being at his level of prospect, but in terms of credibility, in terms of like guy who's going to be asked to shoulder offensive burden on day one, it's Kevin Durant and it's Alperen Sengun. I guess you can say Van Vleet, but I mean, really, like the Rockets aren't going to be asking Van Vleet to do that high-level scoring, right? They're just not. Like I think he's more of a table setter, more of a release valve for three-point shooting. I'm not sure if at age 33 I'm asking Van Vleet to do as much as I'm asking Alperen Sengun. At least that shouldn't be the case next year. But I don't know. But let's talk about Reed Sheppard because like you've mentioned him a few times. It's not that I'm not high on Reed Sheppard. It's that I don't feel like I have enough information to be high on him, right? Like I haven't seen much of Reed Sheppard in an NBA context.
Well, I think that's I'm still basing off everything that I've seen. It's eye test stuff, but it's just what you saw. Like my priors on him coming out of the draft have not changed because we haven't seen enough. And I understand that he didn't wow last year, but like also was it the environment for him? And even now it could be tough. Like that's why I wouldn't pencil him. I'm encouraged by their offseason because it does seem like it's set up for him to at least have a shot at getting more of a role.
No, it's his. The backup point guard, it's his. Rafael Stone basically said it. Like, he has to play well this year.
And if he doesn't, then we have a separate conversation. But it could be a Cam Whitmore situation where it's like, does this guy have the rope, the slack necessary to go through the learning curves? But when you look, what the skill that I've come to value the most is if you can create something out of nothing against a set defense and get them into rotation. When you look at just what is the buzzword to describe it now? Is it still wiggle? Like it's just that shiftiness.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
He just has it. And it felt like people reduced him to this, like, look what he could do as a 3-point shooter. Look at the way he might be able to move off the ball. But it's also just like getting downhill to the in-between range. Like the decision he's able to make off those live dribbles as a passer, we have not seen it yet. The Rockets are so good. It's a compliment to the Rockets. I don't know if we'll ever see it on that team, but if he's going to get a shot, if you told me that he's going to get a regular chance to string together 15 to 20 minutes per game on this team, I would be prepared to bet a not insignificant amount of money that he is going to, I don't want to say fix a lot of their problems, but he is going to convert a lot of people who still just think that either he can't work there or that he's a lower end prospect than he was. And again, I might just be Reed Sheppard pill that he ended up being number 2 on my board. And full disclosure, number 1 on my board was Cody Williams in that draft year. So I'm not sitting here pretending to know everything. There's nothing I've seen from him at the NBA level that makes me skeptical about what I felt about him coming out of that.
I'm kind of where you're at. Like, I think I also had him number 2 on my board. I think I had a different number 1 than you, but like I was.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, it's only year 2, man. Who knows? But I still have the same unchanged opinion about Reed Sheppard. A lot of it is the team, context, right? Like last year, the Rockets wanted him to play. It was surprising that they were playing him those first 20 minutes, like those first 20 games, like 10 to 15 minutes a game. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? I didn't think he was going to crack the rotation. Like, I was like, oh, they were in my head, I had him penciled in as a G League guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the Rockets as an organization are extremely high on Reed Sheppard, like extremely high.
And he did, sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned the G League. Was there a reason that they didn't utilize him more? That he played like 3 games and didn't he basically tear it up? He averaged like 30 points and shot 40%.
They thought he was too
3.
good. They thought he was too good for the G League, right? Like they wanted him with their main guys. It's interesting because for Cam, they didn't have that same level of affection, right? Cam really had to kind of scrap and claw, and he still didn't get that benefit of the doubt. With Reed had that coming in to his first NBA game. So I'm not. One of the surprises the offseason for me was like, it's interesting. I thought Van Vleet was going to get more than 1 additional year. Huh?
He did that.
Yeah.
I called it the buy 2 get 1 free because he basically is getting paid the same over the next 2 years as he made last year. Pretty close to it, anyway.
Yeah. I mean, he's getting like a $3 million increase, but like he basically wasn't gonna get. It seemed like the Rockets were prepared to walk away from Fred VanVleet because at least in negotiations.
Yeah, or this was like basically pre-negotiated of like we're going to give you this, and like he probably signs it because of the chance that if they don't get a Durant or they don't do anything else, like maybe they just decide to pick up the team option to have him. I mean, either way, I think it worked out really well for Houston. It makes the Raptors look even worse for now that he's like on this 2-year, $50 million. Like it ends up being what 3 for $100. Let's round up. Versus just makes them look even less defensible. Excuse me.
No, I mean the deal ends up looking. Like, it definitely does appear to be a little bit under the, like, whisper, hey, we're not doing the 3-year max thing, but like, you can have the press release, right? But we're going to renegotiate this thing, right? And that it feels like that's what happened here. But I do think that part of the reason he only got 1 additional year, when there was a lot of speculation that they were going to go a 3-year deal, but they went for the 2-year, is their belief in Reed Sheppard. And I think a lot of the reason that they didn't go and chase another guard, which a lot of people are like, oh, they still need 1 more guard. It's like, no, I think they just believe in Reed Sheppard, man. I think that 1 more guard is Reed Sheppard, right? I think he's going to step into their rotation. Aaron Holiday is enough of a fallback for them. They don't feel like they need to go get somebody else. They're fine. They feel fine with this, which, I mean, I'm excited to see what Reed Sheppard does tonight. He's going to play in an hour as of recording in the Summer League.
Oh man, if he plays poorly, my takes are going to age so bad.
Come on. Don't be ridiculous. He had 49 points last year, right, in the Summer League? Or was it, did he have a G League game where he scored 49 points? He's awesome. I think he's good. We're just trying to figure out what level of good he's at. But the team seems to be planning around the idea, and they haven't said this, but their moves seem to indicate they're planning around the idea that this guy's going to be their guy once Van Vliet's gone, right? And I think that's when you'll get to see him have that opportunity, right? Not next season, not this season. I mean, he'll have some more opportunity this season, but that real starting level opportunity, I think that's coming the year after next.
Well, I was going to say, I think we should make an agreement where I will put the Rockets in the same tier as the Thunder if we're at the All-Star break or halfway through the season and Reed Sheppard's averaging around 20 minutes per game. Because if he's still in the rotation at that level, because like you said, they have Aaron Holiday as a safeguard. They have Van Vleet. They can use Amen Thompson and Sengun as like playmakers as well. If Reed Sheppard's just in the rotation for like 18, 20 minutes a game, whatever it ends up being.
Something has gone right. Yeah.
Something's gone right.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Like it's definitely something to monitor, like as like an indication of upside for the team, like how much Reed Sheppard's playing. Like I think we can agree to disagree on this. I don't want to press you too much. Because you have the mainstream opinion, right? Like you have with everybody else. I'm the outlier here. I started out by saying I have the controversial take that I think Denver and Houston are in that same tier, right? And I'm okay.
You know, I don't think it's controversial. I think it's what you said is the difference of opinion, and what invariably ends up happening, which we both did, is that you have to poke holes in the opposite side of the argument in order to try and make your case. And so it'll come across as probably more so that I'm too low on the Rockets. I haven't watched enough Kevin Durant or something like that.
No, that's not what I'm suggesting at all.
Not you. I'm not saying you.
Yeah.
Me and you disagree all the time. That's why I love podcasting with you. Is that it's not there's synergy for sure, but we disagree just all the time on this stuff. So
yeah, no, I don't know. I really think Kevin Durant's gonna get an All NBA season next year. Like if he plays 65 games and he qualifies for it, I think he's due for a bounce back. I guess you want to call it that. I don't think he's bounced down, but you know what I mean.
My only concern with Kevin Durant, aside from just like the natural progression of age, is just that some of the stuff I've seen in the one-on-one situations, or more so, and maybe it's different because this is the first year, it's the honeymoon phase, but like there's a real like body language, body movement like problem with him. And so the Rockets are better than the Suns. I think Kevin Durant's a fantastic fit. I think they stole him from Phoenix, quite frankly. But I am going to be and I think he wanted to be here just like he wanted to be in Phoenix, though. But there were great vibes, like kind of during that first part of his time with the Suns. I would pencil, if you told me he played in 65 games last year, I'd be shocked if he wasn't on an All NBA team. It's like, I still do think the world of him, but there's a lot of baggage that I don't think gets talked about enough with Kevin Durant, where it gets talked about with other stars that are maybe, I don't even know why. Like, I guess because Kevin Durant's positioned himself as like, I just hoop, when it's like
he's a little curmudgeon-y. Yeah, it's not my favorite quality about him, right? Like I know people seem to like it's become like an internet favorite that he responds back on Twitter. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like don't you have
that? Honestly,
yeah,
I respect that. It's the just
don't. Like I'm sorry. I'm just like, you're Kevin Durant. Don't you have better things to do? Like that's just my thing.
I respect that. Because I hate people who are just they throw these over the top insults on Twitter, or they offhandedly dismiss anything you say because their opinion, it doesn't align with their own. So I'm all in favor of people calling them out. And I actually find it funny that people consider like Kevin Durant weak because he's responding to criticism. I have just more of an issue of like, what is it? Like OKC with Russ, okay, whatever. But like Golden State to Brooklyn to Phoenix, the vibes, the locker room, the chemistry have now gotten worse wherever he's gone. And I sometimes don't, I know that's kind of tough to measure, tough to quantify, but I'm at the point, and like I was willing to give it a pass in Golden State. And then in Brooklyn, I blamed a lot of it on Kyrie, but it was just like, now it's like the evidence is kind of mounting. And so I have questions, because if push comes to shove, like he might be their franchise player for next year, if you want to call him that, but he's like, if we were to list the players who are most important in the building to the Rockets' bigger picture, is he in the top 3? Like, I'm just very curious to see how he reacts to a situation like that is all.
Yeah, I think for the next 2 years, he is definitely very central, right? But I don't think the Rockets see anything beyond the next 2 years, which I hope Kevin Durant's coming into that eyes wide open, because, I mean, he is nearing the end of his career, right? Like, I think he should view this as a twilight period, right? Which would be kind of a nice way to kind of, age out of this, right? Get a title or two, or like at least contend for a title or two on the way out, right?
Yeah, and it would make it worse if it goes wrong here, because maybe you could say, like in Golden State and Brooklyn and even Phoenix, like you didn't foresee a lot of these things, but like the writing on the wall in terms of Houston's timeline and who matters is, you said it, he handpicked this situation. So, and he kind of like dictated what the trade package ended up being. Like, this wasn't a Phoenix situation where he let that team give up everything to get him. Like, he made it very clear, even though there were some other teams on that list, it very much felt like Houston or bust. So I'm optimistic for sure. I feel like the Rockets, they'll probably have the second best regular season record in the Western Conference. So there's just like some questions. I meant to ask you, his extension, do you think it's going to come in? Like, that'll be the real signal for me. If it's not the 122 or 124, if it's for anything less than the max, I'm going to look at it and be like, okay, this dude gets it now.
So I think the Rockets are willing to spend. I mean, they're in the luxury tax this year, right? And I think they're going to be willing to spend into that for the next 3 years. I think they're going to try to get out of it after that, right? And then kind of ease back into their young players, right? That young core. So I think it's going to be a kind of a 2 or 3 year deal, and we're looking at like 40 to 50 million annually. I don't think he's not getting the full max. I think that seems to be consensus now from Tim McMahon's reporting. It seems like even the Rockets are kind of preparing to sign him to something a little bit lower than that. I don't know. I would suspect he's probably going to sign a friendlier deal, but not a team-friendly deal, if that makes sense. I think he's going to sign something that's more akin to what he is in the NBA.
And I know this isn't scientific, but that would be proof to me, because he could have gone if he wanted to handpick Miami, or there would be other teams that would have given him 2 for 122 or 124, depending on when he signs it. If he ends up signing a deal like that, honestly, that makes your case even stronger, because it shows a level of awareness, self-awareness of what this team is, what he's trying to do, and where he stands just relative to their entire long-term pecking order.
Well, Kevin Durant, the GM, has always been terrible, right? Like, Kevin Durant, the general manager, has always been bad, other than picking Golden State and this move, right? Like, I don't know why he picked Brooklyn. I don't know why he picked Phoenix.
I don't know why he picked DeAndre Jordan over Jarrett Allen still.
Right. But, every 10 years, Kevin Durant has a good general manager moment. Right, it seems right. I think this is one of those things where he made the right call. He woke up on the right side of the bed. Like, this is a team that actually makes a lot of sense for him. So the Suns, I mean, even if I asked you 6 months before that trade, did you think Kevin Durant would make sense on the Suns? I mean, no, right? We would all say no.
At that package and knowing what else is coming too, he made a lot more sense before the Bradley Beal trade. He just made a ton of more sense on that team. So, yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, but I also think Kevin Durant was part of that Bradley Beal trade, right? I think he likes these players that score a lot of buckets, right? I really do think he likes to position himself next to these guys who score a lot of points. And I don't want to say there's not a lot of substance there, because there is substance behind Devin Booker and Bradley Beal as players. They're just they don't fit around him, right? Like Kyrie is not what he needs. Right? Or is not what he needed, right?
I think one of those players, Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, to me, make a lot of sense. And I don't think that the interplay between them in Phoenix was ever nearly enough. But that gets into the other moves, to where it's you put yourself in a situation where there was no big man to kind of screen things and open up for everybody else. And then you add Bradley Beal into the equation, and you don't have a actual, you brought in Tyus Jones, but then you had him stand in the corner a bunch. A game manager. I think Devin Booker is actually a really a much better playmaker than people credit him for, but you still would prefer to.
Yeah.
But it's like a Fred VanVleet situation. I think he's fantastic, but you would prefer to have someone else running your actual offense. And that's fair to say about Devin Booker, but especially when you need to divvy touches between stars and allocate them or get them to play together. But yeah, I mean, what Phoenix became, you're absolutely right. Kevin Durant, if you had told us then that Phoenix's roster last season would look like what it did, no, I don't think anyone would have argued that he made a ton of sense there.
Yeah, and I also just think, I'd be curious to see what direction Houston actually goes in for next season, because I think you and I are.
Do you mean 25 or 26?
No, this coming season.
Okay.
Do they go in the direction of actually giving the ball to someone and playing heliocentric basketball, or do they try to go egalitarian, right? Not Warrior. It's hard to imitate what the Warriors were, right? But Kevin Durant, his best basketball was played on that Warriors team, right, where it was egalitarian, right? Everyone touched it, everyone moved. Do they try to emulate that, or because Sengun can play up on the high post where they had Bogut play and where they had a lot of those guys, but I'm not sure if they want to do it that way. I'm very curious to see what Ime does offensively. This is a real telltale season for what he has offensively as a coach, because up until now I don't think we've gotten to see much of it.
Do you think, would you have to guess how because I didn't look at the Kevin Durant trade and think that they were going to run more of a, I don't even want to say heliocentric. Like, I don't even think it would be, if it's that stark, I think we're going to have some questions about what's going on in like Houston, maybe with some other guys, or maybe it's working out. I don't know.
Well, not heliocentric in terms of Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
To be fair.
You meant Sengun. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be, this is such a cop out. I think, and my hope would be it lands somewhere just in the middle to where I don't know that they have the personnel necessarily to implement like a full on, like, look at some of the stuff that Indiana was running in the half court, like all season long.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they have that level of I think you probably need a little bit more shooting on this team to at least go about that. But you look at Amen Thompson, what he is as an offensive player, even Jabari Smith a little bit, if you're going to throw Reed Sheppard and Fred VanVleet there. Like, you talk about someone who's
They
really
chose
good at
the
working.
smartest offensive players to be part of their core, right? Like Cam, like I love Cam. He was not a smart offensive player, right?
Wow, you're right, and I just didn't think of it. Like, I view Jalen Green as expendable, and I got the Cam Whitmore, but like, you're looking at it, and it's like, yeah, if you were to run a system where you want there to be just an egalitarian approach or just more of a success by committee, those are probably like the two guys you would have taken from the roster and like plucked out and put them on another team. Yeah. And look, Dylan Brooks kind of too, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, they did a really good job reining him in while he was in Houston, like in a way that Memphis didn't, but more so than like, if it's Dylan Brooks or Amen Thompson, or I guess you can make a case for it. I would still take Tari Eason over that too.
Yeah, I think I made the case going into Dylan Brooks' first season. I'm like, listen, Ime is like the Marcus Smart whisperer. You just kind of have to trust him. Like he reined these guys in, right? Like not to the point where they're not gonna take the random pull up mid range J that they shouldn't take, right? But they're gonna take a lot less of those guys, a lot less of those shots, and they end up
the way that he was just dribbling so much less, like it was that. I think honestly, just the Dylan Brooks that we saw a lot of the times in Memphis, that might be what's most impressed me about the defense in Houston and the way like Sengun has been brought out there for sure. But like, one of Ime's greatest accomplishments as a head coach might be reining in Dylan Brooks.
Yeah, and I guess that is that is some of his offensive chops, right? But like we haven't seen him with like an offense. Like I said this on the last show, like. Listen, Ime had the cop out of like, okay, like last year, offensively, we couldn't really expect much of that team. This year, you kind of do, right? Like they kind of have to be a top 10 offense. I think top 8, to be honest. They should be a top 8 offense.
It's so tough because, like you said, they were 12th. I think in the half court, they ended up being 22nd. And like, they were monsters when it came to like transition or getting offensive rebounds. So it comes down to that first shot. And I'm wondering if they have enough creativity to just be dynamic when it comes to getting their first shot, but they now also have someone who doesn't need that as much as like Kevin Durant. Again, I have questions about him on the ball going against pressure, but like Kevin Durant as just a first shot option, regardless of what you're running, is still one of the better bailouts in basketball. So I would actually be like, if they're not top 10, top 9, in just offense overall, I would hazard that something is probably gone.
No, 100%. Like they have to be. Like, again, I'm saying top 8, and I even think that's a tad conservative because
well, what is your read on so bringing in Clint Capella, having Sengun, Steven Adams, and Jabari Smith Jr. Like, does it seem to you that they're really gonna was Clint Capella purely break in case of emergency, or you think they're really leaning into this? Yeah, it's dual big, but the way that Tari Eason or Amen Thompson could play, it's like really a triple big look for them.
I think it's twofold. I think it is, some of that is the Steven Adams assurance, right? Like and maintenance. I think it's a better word. Like, he's not going to be expected to play 82 games, right? They're going to rest him the odd night. I mean, they did last year, right? Because like, he's just not an every night big. Like, he's getting older. They need to have someone to kind of stopgap him. Before it was Jacques Landale. Now it's Clint Capella, which is a bit of a significant upgrade, right? And I think I'm curious to see, like, I think it is really, they do believe in the double bigs, right? I think a lot of it is the Steven Adams maintenance and double bigs. Like, that was the rationale behind the signings. Rafael said it, like, hey, yeah, we believe in this. So we think long-term this is something that we can do. It's weird because I feel like the NBA is kind of leaning into double bigs. Like the Rockets aren't unique here. Like, there's a lot of teams doing this. The Cavs,
the Knicks, seem like they want to start Mitch and Kat together. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And the Thunder. I mean, like a lot of teams are getting just bigger at the power forward position. I think some of that is the reasoning, right? Like the Rockets would never say they made a signing because of the rest of the league, right? I mean, They did it when they were trying to beat the Warriors, right? Like, oh, we made these signings because we had one team to beat, which is the Warriors. I don't know if the Rockets are ever going to talk like that again, but I do believe that they're looking at the rest of the league, and not only do they think that double bigs is successful for them, but I think they think against the rest of the Western Conference, they're going to need double bigs.
And they're like zagging a little bit too, because I know Sengun has offensive range, but like when you see a lot of these, like let's use the Cavs as an example. Jaron Allen and Evan Mobley has been very predicated on like Mobley upping his 3-point volume and efficiency. And you look around the league, whether it's Cat and Mitch, like he's not high volume enough, but he's a 3-point shooter. The Rockets are like Sengun,
no,
Capella,
we don't need that.
Adams.
Yeah.
Like, right. Yeah. No, screw that. Like we'll play those guys together anyway. And look, if you're still going to offensive rebound at the clip that you did, I think their offensive rebounding rate is going to go down just because their first shot offense is going to be better. So like you could probably like in terms of the offenses that we could guarantee would be better than Houston's in the regular season next year. I think the playoff might be a different beast. I think you put Cleveland, and I trust Oklahoma City, but like Denver, like that's kind of it.
I would say Denver, Oklahoma City, and Cleveland. Like those are safe bets. I mean, listen, the Clippers,
like their offense was until the Bogdanovich trade and like him kind of picking up, they like weren't actually in the half court. They had a lot of the same problems. They had a lot of the same problems as Houston. They just took different forms. And if you get Bradley Beal, like I think that Houston's offense will be better than the Clippers' offense. Like I'd be more prepared to think, oh, could the Knicks have a better offense than the Rockets before I get to the Clippers.
John Collins is also pretty damn good. Like I feel like a lot of people killed him for that trade. I think like I don't know.
It's a trade you can only make if you know you're getting Beal, because who else do you trust to dribble on that team right now aside from James Harden?
Yeah, that's the issue. Yeah. Right. Like I think if Beal comes, it makes them look a lot smarter.
They're another team that might be leaning into dual big, by the way. Like, I don't think you want Brook Lopez and John Collins both coming off your bench. I kind of thought maybe they're looking at, you mentioned it, they don't have to play Kawhi at the 4 as much. Mm-hmm. Maybe you start John Collins next to Zubac. Well, then what is... No, he's so good. I guess if you get Bradley Beal, though, is where it's like struggling for me. Is so you start Harden, Kawhi, Zubac, and I'm assuming Beal's not going to come off the bench. Like, I don't think he's agreeing to go to the Clippers for that.
I think it's Harden, Beal, Kawhi, Collins, and Zubac. I think that's probably going to be what they start.
I wonder if there's... I know Zubac is really good, and Kawhi can still be... I'm just wondering, like, what is the defense? Like, for a team that's really hung its hat on defense, yeah, you have Derek Jones Jr., Chris Dunn, Nick Batum, and Brook Lopez all coming off the bench, but what does that defense in the starting lineup look like? I mean, it'd be interesting.
That's why I have them in my tier 2. Hey, they have good depth, and they have a pretty decent offensive starting lineup. It's just the issues I have with them is really defensively, they don't have a lineup that makes sense that works for them offensively as well.
Yeah, because maybe with Beal, but like Harden and Beal in the same lineup, so it would have to be Kawhi and Zoo, who's like their perfect
Beal
fit.
Would really have to hit the time machine, right? Like he hasn't been that level of defender since Washington, right?
If he ever really even was, yeah. And I don't even know, just because of the shooting concerns, like who's like their fifth, like who's the perfect member of that lineup then, like of the other 4 guys to that's not something I'd given enough thought to. So you're absolutely right. I think it would probably be, it's not Chris Dunn. Is it Derek Jones Jr.? It's probably not one of the bigs. Brook and Zoo would be semi-interesting.
They love Derek Jones Jr. He played a ton last year, and they needed him. I mean, they very much needed his minutes. Yeah, but offensively, it's hard to argue with what they have, though, right? Like that's gonna work, right? Like that's gonna work offensively. But
you have to worry about just like Kawhi, Beal, and Harden are all just older, and they have, I mean, Kawhi and Beal have injuries in their rear view. You had them in the right tier. I'm not arguing against that. They're just fascinating because I was so wrong about them last year. I killed them for the Paul George stuff. And then they come out, they're excellent defensively. Like they made a lot of good moves. Their offense starts to turn a corner. I really just think you mentioned Beal turning back the clock. It might be a matter of, can Bogdanovich turn back the clock? Like they need someone to kind of just pop for them offensively for, I think, their roster to make true sense.
I didn't get a chance to watch a lot of Utah last year, right? But from my memory, Collins was pretty damn good offensively as obviously he's extremely productive on the boards, but it's also like he just scores. Like he just does score efficiently, like 17 points a game, or like he did. So I wonder if that's what they're kind of leaning on for next season.
I think what he showed in Utah and what he struggled with in Atlanta is just like when he wasn't able to be the primary screener because you're playing next to a big who's not spacing the floor, it really messed him up.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't mess him up in Utah. And so I still think that like they should look at John Collins and Brook Lopez playing together, because then Brook Lopez is used to kind of just orbiting the arc without a screen, and you can use, because Collins still likes to set those screens and get to the rim. You just can't really do that if he's playing with Zoo. But I think what's intriguing about him, even though I didn't, again, if they get Beal, we reevaluate the trade, but like he's still best at like screening, try and get him to the basket that way. And the Clippers, as of right now, if you're going to play him with Zubats, he's not going to get a ton of that. But with that being said, to your point about his time in Utah, I think he proved that he could still make an impact while not having those looks.
I mean, to be honest, my takeaway from the offseason is like both of these LA teams kind of seem half committed to their core. Like they don't, like the Clippers don't really seem committed to Kawhi and Harden long term. Like this seems like a very much like we're gonna run this out. We're gonna give this our best shake for the next couple of years, and we're done. Same thing with the Lakers, like with LeBron, right? Like next year, we're not doing this again, right? Like that's what it seems like, right? Like I mean, like the article this morning was pretty revelatory for me from Ramona Shelburne.
It was like affirmational for me, because I didn't understand why people thought him opting in was a leverage play. Because if he had leverage, he would have opted out. And so I said this on Hardwood Knocks, was I think that was like a save face statement, and maybe he wants to leave the Lakers, but knew there was no money out there. But like when
Rich Paul has gotten so used to bullying the rest of the league, right, and he can't do that here, and it's killing him.
Right, and it's just like he wouldn't have opted in if the Lakers were willing to give him a contract that lasted beyond next season. And so I think that was like, it's still weird to say, like, think like that. I don't know what. Even so, like, I know they're all about Luka now, but I did find it fascinating. Like, Luka's great right now. Like, he's 26, right? He's not like super duper young. So I understand what the Clippers are doing. I don't necessarily understand what the Lakers are doing.
It does appear to be they're not committed to LeBron, right? Like, I mean, that's all we know. That's all we know that they're doing. We know that they're not committed to LeBron, and we know the Clippers aren't committed to Kawhi and Harden, right? Like they're ready. They're getting ready to move on, which is kind of, I mean, like, listen, if they're getting ready to move on, why should we place them in that number one tier in the first place, right? Like they're mentally gone, right? But yeah, I mean, which is kind of sad for Kawhi and Harden. But whatever the case, like when you look at what they are, what the Rockets are offensively, yeah, it is just that they were missing a guy like Kevin Durant, but it's also they were missing like a cohesive system last year, right? Like they ran like a lot of Sengun, Van Vleet pick and rolls the year before, right? And Van Vleet had a down year last year, and so did Sengun, and they still ran that play a ton. But I think, I mean, to be honest, a lot of what held them back was Jalen Green. I feel bad saying it because I still think Jalen Green can be really good in the NBA, but I think a lot of what held them back offensively was his inability to be that guy, right? His inability to pair with Sengun himself. Why was Van Vleet having to do it? Why couldn't you do it, right? Like, I think the Rockets realized that. They gave him a short extension because they didn't believe in him. They publicly said that they believed in him. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe what they said out loud. And they traded him, right? Their actions spoke pretty loudly that they were not in on this guy anymore, right? After the draft, his prospect kept falling and falling and falling in terms of his ability to be that guy. So now they have someone who could at least temporarily be that guy. We'll see if long term they have someone else who can fill that stopgap after Durant's gone. You think Reed Sheppard could be that guy? I don't disagree. I don't know, right? I think Sengun is just one piece, right? You do need a guard to stir the pot on the perimeter, and ideally they have that in their young core. We're just gonna have to see. They took a gamble, right? They traded away 2/3 of their young guards, right? And they picked one, and we'll just have to see if that's the right bet. He's going to play 15 to 20 minutes a game next year. I'll tell you that. Like, there's nobody else who's going to fill that gap. Aaron Holiday might try, but the Rockets are going full steam ahead with, right now, Reed Sheppard, and we'll just see if that's the right call.
I think it will be, but I've been wrong as evidenced by who I had him on number 1 on my board last year. I'm known to be wrong.
No, listen, like it's gonna be really fun to watch. I can't wait to watch Reed Sheppard in like half an hour. The Rockets are gonna be must-see television for me. Obviously, they always are, but like I can't imagine there's gonna be many people not watching the Rockets, right? Because like they just seem like a compelling league story for the first time. Not just since Harden left, right? Because those last 2 Harden years were not watchable, right? But like that Harden and Chris Paul era. That was a fun Rockets team to watch. This feels like the most fun Rockets team since that Rockets team to watch, and I can't wait to see it.
There's definitely an element of, even if we don't, let's say, even if the way they play isn't like super aesthetically pleasing, I think the defensive disruption is always just something that like basketball fans will appreciate. But there's also, until we know what type of offense they're running, there's going to be that curiosity
a mystery.
element.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm again, like my eyes are gonna see. I'm gonna be watching Ime very closely what he does with this team offensively, because he's gotten a ton of praise. He got the extension. You got the big boy extension. You got to run the big boy offense next year. Like that's all I gotta say. Thank you so much for coming on, Dan. Can you tell people where we can follow you on your socials and read your work?
Yeah, so I'm on all the socials, all the usual ones, at Dan Favale, Favale, and I would encourage any Rockets fans listening who want to hear more talk about the general NBA
and how Kevin Durant sucks, right? Like, you want to...
Yeah, Kevin Durant, aggregate that. How Kevin Durant should be a 15th man on a lottery team.
Yeah.
The Hardwood Knocks NBA podcast, spelled like it sounds. We have a lot of fun over there, so come check us out if you have not already.
For sure. Dan and Grant do a lot of great work. All right, guys, we'll talk to you down the line.